Each of us has imagined at least once what it would be like to glimpse the future or return to the past. This idea has fascinated humanity for centuries. We build machines, conquer space, and create artificial intelligence. But more than anything, we are drawn to the possibility of breaking time itself. Movies and books only add fuel to this fire. We remember the cult classic Back to the Future, where a teenager in a DeLorean races into the past to change the fate of his family. We've seen the butterfly effect, where a single tiny action in the past completely rewires the hero's life, destroying or saving his future. There's source code, where a man's consciousness relives the same moment again and again, searching for a clue. Or the Terminator, where a war from the future invades the present, and the past becomes a battlefield. These stories became iconic because deep down each of us asks the same question. What if it's real? What if time isn't a straight line but a maze with countless doors and sometimes one of them accidentally opens? That's why we freeze when we hear stories about time travelers, when we read reports about people who seem to have fallen out of another era or ended up somewhere they logically couldn't be. We understand that cinema is just a reflection of ancient human fear and hope. But what if those movies aren't fiction, but hints? It's easy to fantasize about time travel. But what if such stories have already happened? The world holds dozens of testimonies that defy logic. One of the most famous legends is about the so-called Zanetti train. In 1911, a train in Italy entered a tunnel with passengers on board and never came out. No trace was ever found. Years later, strange records appeared in Mexican chronicles describing how, in the 16th century, locals saw an iron carriage with no horses, full of screaming people dressed in strange clothing. Coincidence? Or did the train truly derail through time? Another story comes from the Palace of Versailles in France. In the early 20th century, two teachers walking through the park suddenly found themselves surrounded by people in 18th century attire. They even described meeting a woman who looked like Marie Antoinette. Later, historians confirmed that the details they gave matched events from 200 years earlier. Things they couldn't possibly have known. England has its own mystery. In Liverpool, there's a street called Bold Street, known to locals as a time portal. People claim they suddenly found themselves in the past. One man said he entered a bookstore and realized he was in the 1950s. Old merchandise lined the shelves, and vintage magazines sat in the display window. He stepped outside, and everything vanished. The shop had returned to modern day. Similar stories appear across different countries. Sometimes they last only minutes, sometimes hours, but all witnesses describe the same strange feeling, as if they slipped off the normal track of time. So the question is it a matrix glitch, a programming error? Or is time truly multi-layered? And sometimes a crack opens right beneath our feet. Eyewitness stories sound like fairy tales. But if there are so many of them repeating across the world, maybe they point to something more. The question is, what? Scientists and mystics offer different theories. One hypothesis: time loops. Time doesn't always move in a straight line as we're used to thinking. Sometimes it bends, forming tunnels, like a river with curves. If someone accidentally steps into one of these bends, they may emerge in another era. Imagine that our present is just one layer. Beneath it lie dozens of others like pages in a book. Sometimes those pages stick together, and we glimpse two worlds at once. In those moments, people find themselves in the past or the future, as if stepping into the next chapter of a book they've never opened. Physicists speak of quantum fluctuations, describing time as a kind of fabric that can tear and mend itself. And the rips in that fabric, they appear as portals. That's why these shifts always seem sudden, always chaotic. Mystics offer a different view. Time travelers are not accidents, they are choices. The soul, they say, can leap across time for the sake of experience. That's why those who return often come back changed, carrying sensations so vivid, they alter the course of their lives. And here's the question. If time glitches are not fiction but reality, could we too someday fall through to another era? In the 1950s, New York police reported a strange case. A man appeared in the middle of a busy intersection, dressed in 19th century clothing, confused and visibly shocked by cars as if seeing them for the first time. Moments later, he was struck and killed. In his pockets were coins from the 1800s and a business card with an address that no longer existed. When police checked the name, they discovered a missing person report from 1876. There's also the reverse. In 2006, a tourist in Spain took a photo with her digital camera. When she reviewed it, she saw her family, and standing among them, a man in 1940s clothing no one remembered seeing. Researchers called it a temporal overlap, a moment when past and present literally fuse into a single frame. What about the case of two British pilots in the 1930s, flying over France? They saw an old airfield below, with biplanes and personnel in vintage uniforms. Years later, they returned to the area, only to find that the airfield hadn't existed for decades. But their description matched old photographs exactly. Or take the story of a tourist group in early 20th century Mexico traveling by train. The train entered a tunnel and was never seen again. No passengers, no train, no wreckage. For some, it's just a legend. For others, it's one more clue that time can swallow entire groups of people. Each of these cases feels like a glitch in the code, as if the matrix slips for a moment and shows us something we were never meant to see. Think about it. Vanished trains, photos with strangers from another century, accidental encounters with your own doppelganger. Aren't these all hints that our understanding of time is deeply flawed? We've been taught that time is linear: yesterday, today, tomorrow. But what if that's just an illusion, a model built for convenience? Physicists have long suggested that past, present, and future may all exist at once. Like a library, each book is its own era. You open one, live in it, and forget about the rest. But the books are still there, side by side. And at any moment, you could turn the page, or pick a different one entirely. Maybe that's exactly what happens in those strange cases. A person slips from one book to another, and suddenly finds themselves in a world they were never meant to see. That could explain why we sometimes meet the same faces in different places, or why dreams feel more real than waking life, or why déjà vu whispers, "You've been here before." If time doesn't really exist the way we think it does, then everything is happening at once. It's just that our minds can't hold the whole picture at the same time. So the only real question is this: can we learn to control it? If time is a code, is there a way to jump into another moment by choice? Or maybe we're already doing it without knowing. There's one strange pattern that's hard to ignore, especially in royal bloodlines, ancient families, and old dynasties. Look at vintage photographs. You'll see the same faces, the same postures, the same eyes, reborn in new bodies. It's as if some people don't disappear, they just return. Why so many coincidences among the powerful? Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they hold the keys to these transitions. From time to time, eerie photos go viral, old images from the 19th or 20th century, and staring back is someone who looks exactly like you, or a celebrity, seemingly born 100 years too soon. Some say genetics, just coincidences. But why do these coincidences keep happening to the same kinds of people, those who play major roles in society? It's as if the system reboots the same players over and over, just in new conditions. What if doppelgangers aren't accidents? What if they're glitches in the matrix, a failure to redraw the model in time, letting the past bleed through the present? Or maybe they're not glitches at all. Maybe they're clues, hints that we don't live just once, that souls return, that the game continues until we remember who we really are. So think about this. Why are you alive now? Why this era, these events, these technologies? Is it really coincidence? Or did your soul choose this time? Because here, in this exact chapter of history, you might finally awaken, learn your lessons, meet the right people, and play the role only you can play. There are too many patterns to ignore, familiar faces in antique portraits, repeating storylines in royal families, eerie tales of vanished people and misplaced timelines. They're all signs that time isn't linear, that we're all travelers, even if we don't realize it. And now, the final question. If you really are a player in this game, if you can choose your path through reality, which world will you step into tomorrow? Thank you for joining me in this reflection. Tell me in the comments where, if you had the key, which time would you visit? Or maybe you've already felt that time is playing tricks on you. Until the next video, I wish you clarity, awareness, and all the best. See you soon.